keeps coming up with each new generation. I think that they have a tendency to look at her through contemporary eyes. They don't look at her in context of her period. You know, you have to understand, Sally, when she was coming up, there were no woman in the studio system.
Right.
There were no women casting agents.
No.
So, like, when people say that Marilyn Monroe was a whore because she dated men to further her career, they don't realize that for a woman coming from nowhere with no connections, from the
Right.
orphanages,
Right.
that was her only entry in. So why not? I'm not saying that we should admire her, but
Understand her.
have empathy for
Yeah.
for the things she had to do, and she was willing to endure. And I'm sure these things damaged her and played into, you know, later on her very troubled existence.
Right.
But I mean, I think that's one of the things is like putting her into the context because she is very contemporary. You know,
Yeah.
we talk about her the way we talk about Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. She's
Yeah.
right up there with them as far as A-list celebrities.
And contemporaneous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
The other thing that I think that I discovered was that she wasn't just this vulnerable lost soul. She did have a strong
Very
will.
brilliant.
She went against the studio system in a time when
You didn't do that.
you didn't do it, and she broke away from them and started her own company.
And I have to do a trivia point there with a man named Milton Green,
Yes.
who for 10 years leading up to being the vice president of Marilyn Monroe Productions, worked for my mother at Life magazine as her top, photographer. So I knew Milton and Amy Green growing up as a little kid, and suddenly Milton was reshaping Marilyn's whole image and life, and she had this wonderful relationship, I think, with him, which I'm sure also was a love relationship.
I think so, and I do have to add that I think that Milton Green has to get kudos for her legend because a lot of the photos that he shot during their 5-year relationship are some of the most iconic.
Yeah.
He got her in her prime, and he really knew what to do with her more than like the kind of pinups that were just being done
Right.
with sex symbols of the day, like the ballerina, holding
Yeah.
up the
Yeah.
dress, and the gypsy, wearing the gypsy dress, and just taking her out on locations and doing all the black fishnet stockings with
Yeah.
nothing else but the black fishnet
Fishnet
stockings and maybe
yeah.
like a hat covering. Any of those pictures could run in fashion magazines today and
Yeah.
be very contemporary, and people would just say, what a fabulous model.
Yeah. Oh, God. And that was the time when she was really doing serious acting. She'd hooked up with Lee Strasberg, my teacher of 20 years. And I was in like the Thursday class and she was in the Tuesday class, but we never met at Carnegie Hall where Lee Strasberg was teaching privately. But I remember that when she got towards the period of the Misfits, she was, what was the one? She was adorable with Jack Lemmon and
Some Like It Hot.
Some Like It Hot. I mean, playing with these two cross-dressers brought out this whole part of Marilyn that's just so adorable.
Mm-hmm.
And here we sit in West Hollywood, which is maybe the frontier of the gay community. How can you not be in love with Marilyn with those two guys dressed up
Yes.
as women? But when she did the Misfits and you saw her with all the horses around her and this little fragile childlike person, and she was really letting her own suffering come out.
Mm-hmm.
And method acting is truth. She was being so truthful. I just, if you were to say to me, Sally, if you could spend time with and get to know anyone in the world, not speaking spiritually, because I would probably say St. Francis or Jesus or something, but of the world, I would have to say Marilyn. That would be so powerful for me because I emulated her. I don't know if you can tell that at all by knowing me from afar or from close, that she played such an important role in me being a loner, me being involved with a lot of men in my life, me being a comedian and a tragedian at the same time, me wanting to buck the system, like when I did my campaign for the Oscar, with no money and just, balls, Marilyn's balls.
Right.
She gave me a lot of chutzpah.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I mean about when I say, like, she's known as being this vulnerable mess, but she really, underneath it, well, she was a vulnerable mess. She was sensitive in a man's world and in a studio system world, but she did have the balls.
Yeah.
To break through that and fight them. She fought them every step of the way. Up until the last film, she was fired for that. She wanted a better script. She wanted better scripts.
Yeah.
She wanted funnier lines. She wanted, she felt she deserved it. She had worked a long time. They were still throwing her into second-class vehicles, her studio. And she was fighting right up until the end.
Yeah.
And you might even say she died for it.
Yeah. Interesting. I want to do so much more with Marilyn, but I want to mention some other things about you. I'm new to John Ricci, but I know that you wrote another book called
Outlaw: The Lives and Careers of John Ricci.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, John Ricci is a cult figure in the literary world. He had been in the 1950s and 60s a male prostitute in New York, in L.A., in New Orleans, and being a creative person, he wrote about it, his experiences. But he was the first American writer to sort of break down taboos and expose this underworld of people didn't know that in the shadows of big cities there were these clubs where there were drag queens, where there were hustlers, where homosexuality went on. And he wrote all about it in this book called City of Night, which was not just an expose, it was written in the most poetic and beautiful prose that you could imagine, and with such humanity and understanding of these people that, almost like Marilyn, it transcends from generations. When you read it, even though there's no cell phones or there's no online dating, you understand the wanting to connect with someone. And I read that book as a teenager, and I always wanted to meet him. And when I moved to LA, I was working for a magazine, and they asked me, well, who
And
do
I
you
should say that you've written for the LA Times, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the LA Book Review, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
You've written for everyone. God bless you.
Back in the days when journalism existed. Yeah.
So you found him.
I found him, and I did an article on him. And then from that article, a book publisher approached me about turning it into a book. And he was a little hesitant about doing it until we started talking on a couple times a month, and I would tape record him, and then he got to trust me, and we're both Pisces, and and then I wound up being his official biographer from that.
Wow.
So it was a wonderful experience, and he had a fascinating double life. Partially, he kept going back to the streets and the street life, and then he was
Writing about it
always in all his books. And then he became a respected teacher at UCLA and USC, and winning the Penn Award and all these awards, and he's legendary today, and a
he's
big
probably
inspiration.
in his 80s by now.
He's in his 80s. He's in his 80s. That's right. He just had the 50th anniversary last year of City of Night, and we did. A lot of admirers and contemporaries of his did a lot of speaking engagements at colleges and at UCLA, and he's wonderful.
And then also you have another part of your life where you've been in movies. You were in a movie called Fetish with Joan Collins.
That's right.
Did you have scenes with her?
Well, it was only her and I. It was a
really?
two-character piece.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you write it?
I wrote it. It's kind of like I describe it as a modern-day Sunset Boulevard.
Or My Dinner with Andre?
Yes. Yeah.
That kind of thing?
Yeah, if you cross the two, you might come up with this. Well, I started as an actor in New York City. At 18, right after high school, I went to the Academy of Dramatic Arts.
So did I.
Did you?
I went it was the late 50s, or maybe 1960, and I went because Anne Italiano, who became Anne Bancroft, and Grace Kelly, their pictures were, I saw these two women went here, so I have to go there because Anne Bancroft and Grace Kelly went here.
Well, I went there, and then as you went on to the Actor Studio, I went on to HB Studios.
I went there too.
And Sandy Dennis became my teacher.
Right.
And I studied with Uta Hagen and Austin Pendleton.
Yeah.
And even I took a comedy class with Charles Nelson Riley.
Oh, he was wonderful.
So I was an actor, but it wasn't taking off for me. And, as I always say, if you're a creative person and your creativity is not being released in one area, it will find expression somewhere else. And although I never thought of being a writer and I never studied writing, I started it because I wasn't being released. It's like you're walking around, you're on fire. It's not being released.
Right.
It's not coming out.
And you're a Pisces. You're very emotional.
Very emotional. So I started writing, and I started publishing right away. It took off in a way that acting never did for me. So in that case, I let writing call the direction that my life went into. And then as I got older and I became more comfortable with my writing career and I gained confidence, I started writing movies. And because of the technology today, where you don't have to do everything on film, and you can shoot on video and make it look like film, and it's gorgeous, and it doesn't cost a fraction of it. I was able to do movies, so that's what I'm doing now, along with my writing and
Great.
finding all the avenues I can for my creativity, rather than.
Well,
just
we
one
have
thing.
to. We all have to. And here we are in West Hollywood. I know this also reaches parts of Beverly Hills, but there's so many artistic people here, thank God. And I love when you get to switch the hat. I mean, for me, I've been a poet, but I've never really written a book. And I would love to write a book. And I'm going to pick your brain about getting Sally to write her book, you know. But I have painted and written poetry and taught acting. And I do all these things to make sure that I don't leave the arts. I stayed very close to the arts. And you do that too.
Yes.
And you're still as handsome as I remember when I saw you
Oh,
last.
thank you.
Charles Casillo. We only have a few minutes left on this show, but you'll come back. We'll do more, right?
I
You know
love
what
it.
I'd like to do, if it's okay with you?
Yes.
I didn't bring my glasses tonight. I'd like you to pick your favorite. I'd like to read it. This. I'd like to read this.
Yes, please do. I want you to.
Now, are they the same or are they different?
They're exactly the same. It's only
Same.
the covers that
Okay.
are different.
So I now own this.
Yes.
Okay.
It's yours.
Charles Casillo, The Marilyn Diaries. I'm going to read this, and then I'm going to make little notations of what really touches me or moves me or is funny or whatnot. And then you also, and we'll compare our favorites. And then I'd like to do a show like this
Okay.
and read from the book. You can too. I'll allow you to read also.
All right.
But I love doing readings of books. It's something I've done on the radio, different forms of radio over the years. Sometime you'll do my show on www.healthylife.net, which is every Monday, 10 to 11 Pacific time, 1 to 2 Eastern time, and it goes in different places of the world. And, it's perfect for reading because, all you have to do is have your voice. But when you told me that you were in town, because I didn't know, and that you were interested in coming on, I thought, oh, great, because I think you're very much like me.
I think so.
And I think that artists have to stick together and share their arts. And I'm about to do a movie playing what's her name? Lady Salome. Remember Salome in the Seven Veils?
Yeah. So you're going to do
it's
the
loosely-
dance?
Well, I don't have to dance. I'm a little old for that in this movie. But I do have to cut off somebody's head or have it cut off for me. But it's very stylistic and it's very brilliantly written. It's in pre-production now. And what are you doing right now?
I am in pre-production for 2 movies. One is a stylish vampire movie,
Wow.
and one is a satire on modern-day Hollywood and the price of fame.
Okay, you actually had a book called Fame Game?
The Fame Game.
And you had another movie I didn't mention called Lay Me Down.
Let Me Die Quietly. It's
Let
a
Me
thriller,
Die.
a murder mystery, kind of like a modern-day film noir.
Wow. That's great. So you really have a lot of children out there in the form of books.
I do, and they're getting more. Like me, they're getting more mature as they go on.
But newer and newer stuff is going to come.
Yeah.
Well, we have a few seconds left. I would like to say welcome back to LA and
you.
to the city of West Hollywood. Charles wrote an article on the Silver Spoon back when the Silver Spoon was at its heyday with Marty Landau and Robert Forster and Quentin Tarantino and Sally Kirkland and all of the waiters and all the people who would busily go there every day. And it made the LA Times. It was a whole page in the LA Times.
It was several pages. It was a front page,
Yeah.
and then it was and it was in the front of the Silver Spoon from then forevermore for the next 10 years,
Right.
framed and
Oh, whenever I would go to the Silver Spoon, I would point it out. I would say, you see, he's talking about me.
Yes.
And then I would refer to Anna, my poster over there. But you were the one that gave me, LA Times credibility.
Oh no, you give yourself that.
I think we're off. Great. Oh, cool. We did it, Charles.
Awesome. That went so fast.